LGMD patients in need of clarity on their LGMD subtype and how to best care for their bodies. Dr. Khalilkar has been personally involved and has had substantial communication with our organization and other patient communities. Please welcome Dr. Khalilkar.
Well, good morning, everyone. And it's a privilege and a pleasure for me to be here and to speak to you about limb-girdle muscular dystrophies in India. And this is a fantastic conference which has brought together the patients, the other healthcare workers, the pharmaceutical companies. And I think meetings like these are so important because they can get together people from various walks of the limb-girdle dystrophy, so to say, and do joint work. So the task given to me is to tell you a little about limb-girdle muscular dystrophies in India. Now, just to introduce the topic, I know you all know what limb-girdle muscular dystrophies are, but they constitute a large group of conditions which basically have weakness of the legs, weakness of the upper limbs, which very slowly progresses, and over a period of time, it produces disabilities of various kinds. Now, limb-girdle dystrophies are common in India. This is a general statement because India is a very large country and getting good epidemiological data is not easy. But every neuromuscular clinic sees these patients from time to time. So we do believe, those of us who work in India do believe that limb-girdle dystrophies are common in India. And the reasons are that ours is a very large country with genetic diversity of the population. If you look at the north, the west, the east, and the south, they're very different genetic backgrounds. And the conventional concepts of marriage are based on community. So often people will marry within the community. And therefore, I think even though there are so many of us in India, genetically speaking, it's little in genetic India is based on community marriages. So community marriage is a norm in India. And a little more than that, marriages of cousins or blood relatives, second degree blood relatives, are also traditionally practiced in some communities in India. So therefore, the genetic stock actually has been, so to say, isolated. And therefore, the autosomal recessive conditions are more common amongst those who practice the intracommunal exogamy, amongst those who practice the community marriages, among those who actually have cousin marriages. So we do see recessive limb-girdle dystrophies quite often in India. And in most of the clinics, history and clinical examination is the basis for making the diagnosis. And of late, I think the other facilities like muscle biopsy, the immunocytochemistry, the genetic advances have come to many large cities, and there's an ever-increasing possibility of getting your genetic workup done in reasonable cost within the country. So more and more knowledge is coming. So what do we know of LGMDs in India till now? Like I said, epidemiological data is basically hospital-based data from some centers that work in nerve and muscle. But I think it is very clear, in spite of the limited data, that calpainopathy and dysferlinopathy are the two most common limb-girdle muscular dystrophies seen all over the country. And depending on where you are, it may vary a little bit. Like if you're in South India, then you may see more of the autosomal recessive ones, which link with the sarcoglycan gene or the dystroglycan gene. So there are some regional variations. But all over, it is calpainopathy and dysferlinopathy. Now, early reports of the limb-girdle muscular dystrophy go way back to 1975, where people got together the patients that they were seeing. And these are the workers who did it early, Das in south of India, and Monkar and Baba from the west of India. So what do we know about LGMDs in India at present? We see dysferlinopathies, we see calpainopathies, we see sarcoglycanopathies. And you see a little spread of anoctaminopathy, dystroglycanopathy, myofibrilomyopathy, and then most others that have been documented in the world literature. Now, I have included GNE myopathy in this presentation, and the purist will say, oh, it's not a limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. Why have you included it? But very frankly, it is one of the common myopathies seen in India. And in many ways, it looks like a limb girdle muscular dystrophy, even though it's a distal myopathy largely, or to begin with. One does miss it for dysferlinopathy in particular. So I'm going to include a little bit of GNE myopathy. In fact, in the south of India, it is perhaps the most common myopathy that you see in the autosomal recessive group. So the Miyoshi myopathy, or the dysferlinopathies, as we know, can be distal or proximal. And that, I think, is important for everyone to recognize, that even though limb girdle muscular dystrophy primarily talks about conditions that affect the hip girdle and the shoulder girdle, there is this variety, Miyoshi myopathy, which can start in the gastrocnemius muscle and look like a neuropathy or look like a SMA for the inexperienced observer. And then it sort of goes on to become proximal. And the LGMD2B, which is proximal. Now, most of us believe that dysferlinopathies as a group are proximodistal. And this difference between Miyoshi and LGMD2B is in a way arbitrary, because one merges into the other. Now, I must make a mention of the Jain Foundation's work in Mumbai, India for dysferlinopathies. In 2009, they established the Southeast Asian Center for Dysferlin at Mumbai. Initially, we collected clinical data and immunological data, and then plotted for some time, and then the genetic evaluation. And this was a team of people, Dr. Rashna Dastu, Dr. Pradnya Gaitonde. I was on the clinical side, and the Jain Foundation helped tremendously to set up this dysferlinopathy center. And very frankly, for a long time, they provided the genetic analysis free of cost, which in India is a tremendous advantage. And as a result of that work and some other projects that we went through, over 100 genetically confirmed cases were diagnosed in by 2015. And by 2021, I think it's about 350, but that's now not only with the JF. Now, we did not find any particular mutation to be common in dysferlinopathies in India. And there was no founder mutation that was detected on the 100 cases that were studied. So even though dysferlinopathy in India is common, the genetic defects are spread across various exons of the gene, and there is no particularly common defect, and there is no particularly common founder mutation. So that's about dysferlinopathies. Then we go to the calpainopathies. Now, they really stand, I think, from the available genetics shoulder to shoulder. I don't think one is commoner than the other. Now, calpainopathy is very peculiar in the sense that it produces an upper girdle involvement in many people. And actually, there is winging of scapulae. The shoulders do not work very well. And such patients look like facial scapulohumeral muscular dystrophy. So if you have a limb girdle muscular dystrophy that is started in the upper limbs and there is scapular winging, then you think of calpainopathies. And these people toe walk. So upper girdle, scapular winging, toe walking, and weak abdominals are the clinical features of calpainopathies. And you cannot immunostain calpain, you have to blot it. You have to blot it at 3 frequencies, 94, 60, and 30 kilodalton. Now, the first papers for calpainopathy came from the north of India, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where they blotted calpain and showed that almost 40% of patients of limb girdle that they had collected, the calpain did not blot very well. And that was the first paper on calpainopathy from that center. Now, the advantage is that since you know that there is a founder mutation in this community, when a patient from this community comes with typical phenotype, we directly go for the founder mutation. We don't do any other test. And this was one study which we did, which showed that 90% of the times, only the founder mutation study was useful. Now, third is the GNE myopathy. And these are the two big people of GNE myopathy, Ikuya Nonaka and Zohar Argao. And this, in many ways, is a myopathy which is distal and proximal. It starts with the tibialis anterior and then goes on to the hip adductors and the hip flexors. And peculiarly, it spares the big front thigh muscle, the quadriceps. So these people have very strong quadriceps. And this is an MRI showing that you look, the vertical arrow shows you that the posterior part of the thigh is completely affected. And the horizontal arrow shows you that the front of the thigh, which is looking gray here, is completely normal. So really, for those who are experienced clinicians, it is not too difficult to pick up this myopathy. Actually, this particular gene came from the Roma, the Roma of Eastern Europe. This gene was known that the Romas have it. And we found it in Rajasthani people from India who had GNE myopathy. And for those of you who are interested, the Romas are believed to have originated in northwest of India, and then they have moved out of India and gone to various places to sort of populate various parts of the world. And this is one other genetic link that confirms that the Roma probably started 800 BC in Rajasthan. Then we'll make a little mention of sarcoglycanopathies. They look like Duchenne muscular dystrophies. They're young children, boys and girls with large calves, but you can also have milder phenotypes that go on to progress very slowly. And there is information on sarcoglycanopathies from all centers in India with various genes being detected, and the gamma sarc and the alpha sarc seem to be the commoner ones. And there are again 3 or 4 series available in Indian literature. So I think then, after having told you about these 4 common types of limb-girdle muscular dystrophies, let me make a statement that almost all the known genetic defects in world literature, there are patients who show those, and anaptominopathy and myofibrillar myopathy, and most of the known limb-girdle muscular dystrophies have been documented from India, but they are few and far between. These are the 4 main groups: dystrophinopathy, calpainopathy, a little bit of sarcoglycanopathy, and GNE myopathy I'm including here, though it's strictly not a limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. Now, what's the other situation? The patient groups have started to form. There are patient groups of Duchenne muscular dystrophy, patient groups of GNE myopathy, patient groups of calpainopathy, and they are trying to come together so that they can exercise some influence on the way the research in these diseases goes. They can also talk to each other about the rehabilitation, talk to each other about the difficulties they had, and try and solve them. So these activities have actually started, and the revolution of communication, the WhatsApp and the Instagram and the Facebook and so on and so forth, is really helping them to try and connect to each other. And in fact, I recently saw an example where there was an index case, and 3 family members were known because of the WhatsApp connections later on, and they had similar symptoms about which they didn't bother much, and it was a case of GNE myopathy. Having said that, the patient groups are still in very early time. The genetic nature of these diseases is a bit of a hindrance in forming a joining group, because some people don't want to declare that there is a condition that may run in the families for repercussions on the social aspects of the families. But more and more people are coming forward. More and more people are doing pre-marriage counseling. More and more people are doing antenatal testing. So I think the patient group movement is picking up. What still is lacking is the patient group and doctors and the government coordination for advocacy. I mean, there are patient groups in their own place. There are few doctors working in nerve and muscle disease in their own place. And the government really doesn't come to know what the issues are. And the representation to government is an area that really needs to be looked at. So, ladies and gentlemen, to summarize, the information on limb-girdle muscular dystrophies in the Indian context is slowly evolving. Dystrophinopathies, calpainopathies, GNEs, and sarcoglycans have been identified. I put sarcoglycan first because it was detected first, but it's not the commonest. Initially in immunostains, and then now with genetics. And large multicentric efforts have still not been put in place. But when they are, and I'm sure they will be, further information will come. The coordination between patient groups, medical personnel, researchers, and the policymakers is the next step to try and improve the patient care, research, and treatment projections for patients of limb-girdle muscular dystrophy in India. Ladies